So welcome back to more Big Book of Orks, and we're going to cover the truck, your stormboyz, and your deffcopters. All three units which have gone through probably the biggest changes. So let's start off with the truck. Movement entirely now depends, as you know, on your wounds. So the more wounds get stripped off, the more, the less you can move, the less damage you can do, and so on, which I think is a good addition to the game. So the thing you need to know about the truck is it has a wounds of 6 to 10 plus. So your truck starts off with 10 wounds. However, if you've got mechs, you can put it up past 10 wounds. Yes. So if on the first turn, let's say you have a unit of burner boys in there, and one of them happens to be a spanner, spanner this is called now, not a mech, but basically you can fix it so it now has 11 wounds. And basically every turn you could essentially, if it's not being hit, you could just increase its wounds. Same for if you used a big mech and you got the multiple wounds on it, it could go from 10 to 13. So that is very good because it's got seemingly no upper limit on wounds. But there you go. So it's got a 12 movement speed, 6 strength and 3 attacks on at least 6 or more wounds. On 3 to 5 it goes down to movement 8, strength 5 and D3 attacks. On 1 or 2 you've got 6 movement, 4 strength and just the 1 attack. So not a large movement, and again this is an orc vehicle, so weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 5, 6 toughness, leadership of 6 and a +4 save, which is not actually bad for a truck. Again, a +4 save, but that's not saying anything. These things are going to be, hit magnets. And as you know, now there are multiple weapons in this game which now do D6 damage, specifically for shooting at vehicles. So this is where the truck once again comes into its own, because they've changed the ramshackle rule again. So on a D6, each time this model suffers damage from an attack that has a damage characteristic of more than 1, so even if you are hit with something that says it does 3 damage, on a roll of a 6, reduce the damage caused by the attack to 1. Now, yeah, it's not going to go off all the time, but you are saving yourself quite a bit. This is just like, last edition, where people realised, oh damn, pain boys are really good. So remember that rule, because it will save you so many times. So weapons, it's got a big shooter, 36-inch range, assault 3, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage, rocket launcher, 24-inch range, 1 damage, strength 8, -2 AP, 3 damage, which is, again, thanks GW for giving us a rocket launch that does 3 damage straight away rather than D3. And then its melee weapon is a wrecking ball. So +1 to strength, -1 AP and 1 damage. And for the special rule for this is the bearer can only make 3 attacks with this weapon each time it fights. So you do 3 attacks anyway, doesn't matter. It's open top, and of course it explodes. So on a roll of a 6, it explodes. All models within 6 suffer D3 mortal wounds, and it has a transport capacity of about 12, which is exactly the same, but that's your truck. Nothing majorly changed, but the ramshackle rule will certainly help in a time where we have, shall we say, multiple high value damage vehicle anti-weapons that will be firing at you. Although if your opponent thinks that you are an all infantry based army, the chances of him taking vehicle weapons will be a bit sneaky. So yeah, bear that in mind. So next, stormboyz. Stormboyz have gotten even cheaper. And you can now have up to a unit of 30 stormboyz. So stormboyz are basically boys. So remember, that's your 120 attack unit can now move 12 inches, and it can also charge when it uses full throttle. So this unit can advance and charge in the same turn, but if it does so, roll a d6 on each model after any overwatch has been resolved, and a roll of 1, the unit suffers a mortal wound. So if you've got 30 boys, roll it, any ones, they're dead. Either way, this stormboyz are, I think, going to be a big part of orc armies again. Just the ability to be able to move, not only move super fast across the table, possibly get in those first turn charges, or just be able to have a unit of essentially, okay, this is 120 attacks that can just literally move across the table and be on you like lightning. Now, yeah, you've got full throttle, which again is the downside, but hey, it's not, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's still a really fast-moving close combat infantry unit, which is what the orcs are good for. You know, use them, get them in. Remember, if you're using Boss Zagstruck as well, these guys are basically immune to morale tests, so it doesn't matter about the morale tests. So that's essentially the stormboyz. There's not much really to say about them other than that they've gotten much better. And you know, if you want to talk about boys, go back and watch my video where I talk about the boys. So next, Deathcopters. Deathcopters have gotten more expensive. So Deathcopters back in previous edition were the unit you used to infiltrate behind the back of your lines to try and get rear shots off against vehicles. However, this edition, Twin Linked has gone, shall we say. So now you're left with a well, oh no, it's their Assault 2. So yeah, your copter rockets are now basically 2 shots. You're still shooting on 5. So again, don't expect to hit anything. You can have up to 3 as a standard, or you can go up to 4 additional. They're all equipped with spinning blades and copter rockets. So the nice thing about the Deathcopters is they're a bit customizable. So you start off with your your copter rockets, which is Assault 2. So Strength 8, minus AP 2, 3 damage. Again, not bad for what you're getting, but the problem is they become more expensive than they were. Now, the good thing is that there is basically a unit that I guarantee a lot of orc players either have but have never used for years, or don't have at all because it's been that bad and you'd rather use your Deathcopters instead. Now you can still use your Deathcopters because the only difference is one flies, one doesn't. So that unit is the War Buggy. And we'll get onto the War Buggy when we cover the War Buggy. But yeah, use this, but probably be prepared to think that I want to spend more points on my boys rather than on, you know, Deathcopters. And I think that these, you know, in this time, I think that Commandos, Stormboyz we've just covered. Again, War Buggies much cheaper, but they do exactly the same job. So other weapons they're equipped with. So Custom Mega Blaster, 24-inch range, Assault 1, Strength 8, minus 3 AP, D3 damage, and of course it's got the Get Hot rule, which doesn't exist anymore, but it's essentially the same. So on a roll of 1, the bearer suffers a mortal wound. Then you get the twin big shooters, which is 36-inch range, Assault 6, Strength 5, no AP, 1 damage. And you can also be equipped with a Kill Saw, which we covered before. And then you get the spinning blades. So this is a close combat weapon, plus 1 strength, no AP, 1 damage. And then this is the interesting thing. So make 3 D-hit rolls for each attack made by this weapon instead of 1. So you've got 2 attacks standard. So that's 2 D3s you're essentially making, which is, it's not bad. So, abilities, Turbo Boost. When this model advances 6, its movement characteristic for the movement phase instead of rolling a dice. So, it's not bad. So basically you're moving, movement range of 14. So you're going to move pretty far. So they're still pretty good in terms of, trying to chase something down and being, pretty movable scouts about the field. However, I think war buggies, in my personal opinion, I think war buggies are now better. But again, we'll get to war buggies when we cover them. I'll stop talking about them now. So, scouting ahead. So during deployment, you can set up a unit of Deathcopters behind enemy lines instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the end of your movement phase, the Deathcopters can swoop in and to ambush the foe. Set them up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from any model, within 14 inches of a battlefield edge. So that's essentially, you've almost got a deep strike so long as you're almost within 14 inches, which is not bad really. But I'm still, I have, 3 Deathcopters. Whether, I've used them so far in the edition, but as I've said, I'd rather spend those points on getting more boys on the table. And I think there are now better units to use as a flanking unit than the Deathcopter. So they've also got equipped with a big bomb. So the way that bombing has now changed in this edition is that you now have to fly over that unit you want to bomb. So if you do that, a Deathcopter equipped with a big bomb can drop as it flies over an enemy unit in its movement phase. After the Deathcopter has moved, pick 1 enemy unit that it flew over, then roll a d6 for each model in the enemy unit, up to a maximum of 5 dice. For each roll of a 5+, the target suffers 1 mortal wound. It can only do this once per battle. So, again, it's that typical orc shooting. You're doing it on a +5. It's not bad because you're doing mortal wounds, which, if you do, but again, you're limited to, well, you can only roll up to a maximum of 5 dice. And you're like... which, again, if you're going to use it on something like a small unit is worth it, but if you're going to try and, say, bomb a unit of, gribbles that are going to come running toward you, you're only going to hit 5 of those units. So it's sort of a waste of the big bomb at the end of the day. So that's those units covered. And we've covered sort of the truck, which, to summarise it, the truck has improved, but also stayed the same in an odd way, purely because of, I think that if you took the additions and put them into 7th, the truck would be amazing, but now that you take those, the improvements, you put them into 8th, it's meh, but it's still pretty good for what it does. Your stormboyz are basically boys with a jetpack, which are awesome because, longer range movement, they can charge. After they can move, advance and charge, so awesome. You're also going to bear that risk reward cost in mind, so if you do that you will be losing boys, but it's down to luck of your dice. If you're going to do that, you have to make sure, I think, you're taking boss Zagstruck as well, because then they can stay in the combat longer and Zagstruck will be bringing more pain to the table. You can also remember to take a boss knob in there as well for secret power claw fun, so there's that as well. So, and then Deathcopters, which are, they're still a good unit, don't get me wrong, But last, again, this is, I think, I almost think I need to make an entire video on Deathcopters now. So last edition, you used Deathcopters as this, you know, flanking, rear shooting unit, but now those rules have changed. It doesn't really matter where you shoot the vehicle, and if you're going to use something that's, you know, anti-infantry, your tank busters are better and cheaper, your big guns are better and cheaper, your mech guns, I think, are certainly more effective than a Deathcopter would be, you know, in terms of, you know, shooting. And then when it comes to close combat, there's lots of different options you can take. So I don't think Deathcopters, their niche of being this flanking unit has almost disappeared at this point, because you've got your commandos that can literally deep strike anywhere now, as long as they're 9 from an inch away. So I'd rather be using commandos to get behind my enemy and using the burners as, you know, a deterrent to anyone that might attack me, or using them on the attack itself. So Deathcopters are in this odd position this edition. But other than that, yeah, that's sort of the stormboyz and the Deathcopters. So next time we'll be covering the flying variety, the Dakka jet, the burner bomber, the blitzer bomber, the new one we got, I can't remember what it was called now. Yeah, the Wazboom blaster jet. So other than that, that's it. We'll see you next time.